The NFL draft is next week. It is upon us, and I need to get these prospect rankings out. We're going to be going over linebacker today, and it is easily one of the deepest classes. We're going to be talking about 15 guys, but what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy, Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Starting with 15, I got Malcolm Rodriguez out of Oklahoma State. First things first, the dude lacks ideal size. He lacks ideal length. And he's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. He is not going to be a guy every team will be willing to pound the table and be like, that's my guy. But this dude he's just a legit football player. He plays with an old school type of nasty thumper mentality, man. He's got that low center of gravity, just plays well through contact. He's got exceptionally strong hands, hits hard. I mean, you see the 36 on the bench press. I know he's got short arms, and also it's probably like but still, that's an impressive punch. Problem is, with the lack of length, he's not going to be an ideal guy to stack and shed. That's not going to really be him, but he has a very good understanding of leverage, being a former wrestler. So he does know how to he knows how to disengage from blockers. He did struggle with wrapping up throughout his career. I believe his missed tackle rate this past season wasn't that bad, 12.5, but he hovers around that 12.4 mark over his career, so it's not ideal. He doesn't really have a true feel for coverage, as to say he was schemed pretty well in coverage by Oklahoma State and protected in that regard. The lack of burst, the lack of length means even if he's early on plays, he might not necessarily get there fast enough. So there is that. Again, size is going to be kind of a big issue. He just sneaks into my top 150, but he has a ton of special team experience, and I think that makes him very valuable. And hey, man, in the NFL, you just want football players, and that's what he is. He is a football player. At 14, I got LSU's Damion Clark. This cat he's got a great body type at 6'2", 240, 33-inch arms. I love it. Pretty good athlete at that size with the 4.57. Probably would have been a day 2 prospect if not for the spinal cord injury. The surgery will cost him his rookie season. So we're going to probably see him slip to somewhere, I imagine, early day 3. I can't see him falling past the 5th round. Quite frankly, it could happen. It's a draft. Anything can happen. But I don't really see it because he's got a good combination of just length and overall athleticism. Like, he does really have an imposing size, and he's super strong as well. At I mean, the dude had a missed tackle rate of 6.1%. 61, that would have been a terrible missed tackle rate. 46 stops this past season. He plays the run fairly well. He's actually a pretty solid blitzer. And quite often last season, he was asked to spy teams with more mobile quarterbacks, as he had 23 pressures and 6 sacks on only 75 pass rushing snaps. Now, I don't think he's a fluid athlete, so don't get me wrong. Like, I think he can maneuver the line of scrimmage fairly well. He's got the ideal size to play that role, but in coverage, you do see him kind of get lost, whether he's playing the quarterback and just doesn't know what's going on around him, or he's not going to be nearly as explosive as if he has to guard a receiver, even in some case tight ends out of their breaks. He is more, in terms of coverage, he's more the guy that it's going to be like, all right, you're going to hit me with this 6-yard slant, 6-yard drag. Okay, that's the only 6 yards you're going to get. He's more of a minimal damage type of guy in coverage than an actual playmaker in coverage. I mean, well, going back to the Mississippi State game, that's where he was probably the most tested, where he allowed 11 receptions on 13 targets, and it only ended up going for 64 yards. There are times where he gets so, how do you say this? He goes to fill his gap, he engages, and he loses sight of the ball carrier in the backfield, or you could kind of, I don't want to say confuse him, but I guess essentially confuse him with motion and play action. He is susceptible to that. But he was, for all intents and purposes, he was the leader of this LSU defense. Quite often, he was given the role of making sure the alignment was right, everybody was in the right spot, and everyone knew what they were doing. And the NFL values that very, very highly. I like this guy's skill set. I actually really like the comp. If you go back in the day, remember Thomas Howard at UTEP. I think that's fairly accurate when it comes to Clark. At 13, Micah McCadden out of Indiana, probably one of the best blitzing linebackers in this class. He wins in a variety of different ways. I think he does a good job of stacking and shedding. But the length, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I think in the NFL, he's not going to always win that battle. But I love the mentality. He is like the Terminator, man. He looks and he's coming for you. It's like a Michael Myers movie or a Jason Voorhees, man. He'll get there eventually. But I love that ferocity, man, when it comes to hunting down ball carriers. And he can be a violent tackler. The problem is he's a bit inaccurate. I like this because it's kind of a gamer term, I think. But he's inconsistent with the ball carrier in his crosshairs. You know, he will sometimes, instead of squaring up and trying to actually like hit the meat of the ball carrier, he'll kind of like just lunge his body and maybe clip him, maybe fly by him. It's a bit inconsistent. Another guy who was the pre-snap leader to his team, making sure everyone was in position. But this cat was really good. 32 pressures, 8 sacks, 15 and a half tackles for loss. Very good. He is a bit stiff in terms of change of direction, like, and going laterally. Like, he's a guy that maybe typically you don't want to have out in space, whether it's maybe covering a guy out on a screen or a swing pass, or just in the middle of the field. Because he's not slow to reacting, but he's slow to get in halting his momentum and forcing it the other way. But overall, I actually love the comp here. But big fan of McCadden. Should be an early day 3 guy. At number 12, JoJo Doman out of Nebraska. The dude's going to be 25 in July. And you know what? He did play like a man among boys. And guess what? Good. At that age, you better be playing that way. You know? But this guy's got pro ready. He's pro ready in terms of how he views coverage. He kind of played the overhang role for Nebraska, whether that was like he was playing box safety or in the slot. Played a bit more, not necessarily more traditional linebacker, because he isn't a guy that plays too much between the hashes. He's not going to be someone that can navigate the offensive line, the line of scrimmage, maybe move from gap to gap, or even get nimble between tackles. That's not he's just not that guy. But as I put it here, sub-package linebacker. He's fast, especially in the passing game, man. He's fast at recognizing what's going on. He gets route concepts and route tendencies. So if you go screen early, he's gonna know when you're going screen late or swing, stuff like that. Got a nose for the football. He's always around the football. I mean, nine pressures, pretty solid, but not entirely a blitzing type of guy. Another guy that kind of lacks the length at 30-inch arms, But I love his mentality. He's pretty physical. He's not going to let a guy get in between him and the ball carrier, at least outside the hashes. Again, when we're talking about inside the box, closer to the line of scrimmage, it's a bit more of a, I guess you would say 50-50. But he does have actually an extensive injury history. Let me go to it here. All right. So back in 2017, he required surgery on his knee because of a pickup game in basketball. He suffered a torn ACL in his left knee. Actually, before that, he had surgery in April, and then he re-aggravated it in November. And then in October 2021, had a hand injury, ended up missing the final 2 games. So that did require surgery. So it is something to be aware of, especially with an older prospect. It might be I hate this term, but it's like he's a turkey bowl dad. He's coming out there and trying to hang with the young kids, and he does an all right job of it. And I think he's going to be more for ready to win now teams. Should see him go off early day 3, though. Again, very smart, very instinctive player. Darian Beavers coming in here at number 11. Love the comp. Gave him one of my Dolphins cups. Fins up, baby. Fins up. But he is a Blitzin' Mike or even a Blitzin' Will. He's a former transfer from Connecticut, transferred to Cincinnati in 2019. Kind of has the build of a pass rusher, which isn't surprising. That's where the Huskies played him, and then when he transferred, he was immediately moved to linebacker. But he does actually have a pretty solid pass rush. 21 pressures, 6 sacks, a nice long frame. So there are 6'4" with 32.5-inch arms. He's pretty physical on contact. He plays with very good pop in his hands. He's very good at stacking and shedding. That long frame will do a good job of clogging passing lanes, just being, again, kind of a scarecrow there in the middle of the field. He shoots gaps pretty darn well. He's pretty sound fundamentally in general. He was deployed actually off the edge at times there at Cincinnati. Good upper body strength, and he was actually used a lot as a blitzer, as he was used a lot of times in the B and the C gaps. But when like average explosiveness, play speed, it's okay. It's not like something to write home about. He kind of struggle. He's not a guy you want to make a tackle in space. And even in pursuit, sometimes he gets tangled up with blockers. So yeah, I will say, and I love this term, he's like late to the party, life of the party type of pass rusher in that regard. He's more of an opportunistic and reaping the rewards of the work that other people are putting in and stacking his own stat sheet with those sacks. Again, coming in late and playing more like an opportunist. He's in a guy that's going to immediately shoot up there and force the quarterback out of the pocket. He's going to be more the guy that he's the second or third guy there to kind of ensure that the pressure hits home, but still very, very good prospect. It looked very good at the Senior Bowl. I got him at just cracking the top 100 of my big board. At number 10, now we're in the top 10, Tindall, one of my favorite prospects in this class. Don't mind the Kenneth Murray comp. It's more so in terms of his length and athleticism than it is in terms of play. Because I'm going to tell y'all, Tindall is a much better tackler than Murray was, though Murray was fairly all right his last season at Oklahoma. But I love Tindall. A lot of him is upper body, and boy, that upper body it's jacked. But you do notice, he's a bit thin. He's got the chicken legs going. I can relate, my man. I can relate. Doesn't matter what I'm squatting, it's still gonna look like I can't squat. That's a man. That hits home. That's so relative. I hear you. But he got his first taste of actual starting experience this season. Coming into the year, he only had 212 snaps prior to the season. So not a lot of actual like significant experience coming into the year, but he played pretty darn well. He's very explosive downhill. He's shown the power to kind of stack offensive linemen. 28 stops this season in the very good against the run as a pass rusher. 26 pressures, 9 sacks. Ended the year actually pretty hot. Only did that on 55 pass rushing snaps. And how he was used there at Georgia, he was essentially he was the spy to the quarterback. He legit had a field day against Tennessee's Hendon Hooker, where he ended up sacking him 3 times. Where he'll spy the quarterback, wait for them to try to get away, and then he moves in, and he moves in fast. The short area quickness is legit. The closing speed is legit. Missed tackle rate of only 8%, pretty solid. Like I said, he is pretty good in that regard. He's been pretty protected in coverage, though. He's got good length. He's a pretty twitchy athlete. Does have a good nose for the football. It's just a matter of him kind of just getting it upstairs. I put sluggish laterally, and I think it's more of he's hesitant in coverage, and he's just got to get a better feel for it. So I think it's just a matter of time before that processor comes along. I think he's one of the strongest linebackers in this class. I really wish he did the bench because I'm sure he would have put up hella good numbers. And at the Senior Bowl, he had one of my favorite moments where he went one-on-one in pass protection drills with Brian Robinson, and Brian Robinson laid a devastating hit that literally took Tindall. Tindall, ate it. He's spinning around. I can't spin around because of my cord for my headphones. See, I already knocked down my my equipment here. But he span around off of that and then followed through with the play, still got to the quarterback. While it looked like, wow, Robinson won that rep just because of the initial hit, it was actually Tindall who, through sheer perseverance and actually good balance, kept with the play, got to the quarterback. I like Tindall a lot. At number 9 is actually a lot of people's one of their favorite prospects in this class in Troy Anderson out of Montana State. And he came into Montana State and played a variety of different positions from running back to fullback to QB and finally settled in on linebacker his sophomore year. Didn't have to play in 2020, and we'll talk about the injuries because he has had nagging right knee injuries. He had a nagging shoulder injury. And actually, he was going to redshirt the 2020 season because of the right knee, I believe, until they just canceled the season. So that is something to kind of know that there might be an injury check mark there. So be on the look for that. He did become a bit more polished his 2021 season. Had a banger year, but still a guy that's developing his technique and overall understanding of the position. The dude had a ridiculous 4.42 40 at 243 pounds. Good length. I like it. You like the explosiveness. He truly was the combine warrior everyone said he was going to be. Again, still a bit more rawness to his game. Isn't the most cleanest of tacklers. I'm sure there's a better way to put it, but that's how I put it. In 2019, he had a missed tackle rate of 18.8%. Cleaned it up to 10.8%, but it's still something he needs to work on. In the Senior Bowl game, he actually had 2 missed tackles. As a run defender, he still kind of flows with the play than rather actually just going back there and blowing it up. So there is that. He can get lost by pre-snap motion. But overall, man, this guy is dangerous in coverage just because he's so freaking athletic. 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups this year. And you love the physical ability. Even if he's not there yet, especially when it comes to taking on blocks, because there's a variety of ways this guy can win with his blend of athleticism and physicality, that it's just a matter of time. He is 23, but keep in mind, new to the position. And A lot of people are going to just love him because he's a high character individual, just raved about by coaches, whether it was at Senior Bowl, back at Montana State. I mean, the dude actually wanted to play through injury before he was talked into redshirting, and then just had the cancellation of the year. So the NFL is going to love that type of mentality. Anderson, he's pretty dope. At number 8, this is probably my guy, Brandon Smith out of Penn State. I'm going to be more high on Brandon Smith than the consensus, just straight up, because they're going to look at him and be like, he's not a linebacker. Well, okay, benefit of the doubt. This guy's still learning the linebacker position. He didn't really play linebacker until this year, where he played more of a traditional type of linebacker role, because back in 2020, he was more of that overhang safety for Penn State. Just this cat has a lot of explosiveness to his game. He comes downhill with a head of steam, and I love the mentality that he looks for the hit. The dude he looks to light it up. He did seem a bit more timid to do that, because this year, instead of facing wide receivers, he had to go against O-linemen and tight ends. So there was a bit more hesitancy to that. And he might be a bit more of a project now, but I think he will pay dividends within another year or two, because this guy is absolutely ridiculous at 6'3", 250 pounds, coming out 4'5", 240, 37.5 in the vert, 128 broad, sub 7 second 3-cone, and the length at 34-inch arms, close to 35. Like, this cat can be a problem. He legit can be a problem. He still needs to become a better processor and actually more of a sure tackler, but he's got all the makings of what you want. Great size, great length, great athleticism, rare range for a guy his size. I mean, last season for Penn State, he allowed under 250 yards in coverage. And best believe it, once things start clicking for him, I think he could be special. That's why I got the comp as Martez Wilson, because that was another guy who was like, man, this guy has the skill set to be special. It's just a matter of, can he attain that potential? As Wilson, I think a lot of that was off-field issues as well for Wilson, but can he attain that potential? And I really think he can. That's why I'm really high on him. He ranks at 69 on my big board. Nice. At number 7, Christian Harris out of Alabama. Straight up, the biggest knock, I would say my biggest knock is he has no feel for zone. He really doesn't. He seems a bit lost in zone coverage, and sometimes he's saved by his length and athleticism. Like, the dude has an ideal frame for the linebacker position in terms of this guy's a lot of muscle and 32-inch arms. You kind of like that. You kind of like that in coverage. I think you're going to have, like, if you draft him, more so you want to do it in a man-heavy scheme where you ask your linebackers to play more man coverage, whether it's on the running back or the tight end, because he can stick with those guys. I mean, straight up, man, this dude actually had some solid reps on Treylon Burks. Like, he ain't half bad. He's a very good athlete. Very good athlete. Violent hands as a pass rusher. But, I mean, this season he had 26 pressures, 7 sacks. The year before, 31 pressures and 6 sacks. The dude is violent. Now, he does have a lot of missed tackles on tape, whether it's a flyby, whether it's just being shrugged off and not secure in the wraparound. So obviously his tackling technique could use some work, but I think for all intents and purposes, he does a good job of locating the ball carrier and making his own path towards them. There are times where he does get stuck on blocks, but I think part of that just, again, is using those strong hands, stack, shed, Get those guys away. You're stronger than these blockers. Go forth, my son. Also filling gaps, that could be a big issue in the run game. So a lot of his stuff deals with diagnosing the play and knowing where to be and filling that role. The dude has the upside. That's why I think it's actually, I was really happy. Typically, I hate giving out comps, and I feel like for the linebacker position are some of my best comps. They are. I really do. Darren Lee. I think that's a top-notch comp because that dude was a freak athlete. And obviously, it didn't develop, but I feel like that Harris is a similar type of prospect, that he just needs to get the brain part, I guess, of the position down, and he could really be pretty darn good. At number 6, Chad Mumma out of Wyoming. I put low-level competition as a weakness. I don't really think it will. I don't think it really matters because this guy looked really good at the Senior Bowl, but it is worth noting he didn't face a Power 5 team at all in 2021. But the dude is a plus athlete. He shows tremendous ability around the line of scrimmage, being able to maneuver. Like, he could get tiny in between tackles. He does a good job of dipping under blocks. And the dude hit home as a pass rusher this, not just this year, but the year prior through his career. He has 41 pressures, 6 sacks on 146 pass rushing snaps. Pretty darn solid. There are times he can get stuck on blocks, and this is the biggest gripe when it comes to Mumma. I just don't think he's physical. And I talk about this, like, when it comes to physicality, it's much easier to teach someone who is physical to be less physical than vice versa, teaching someone who it's not in their nature to be physical. And I think that when it comes to Mumma, he's just a guy and he's not physical by nature. So it's gonna be, I think that it's gonna be something a bit harder for him when he gets to the NFL, because at that size, like, dude, you're strong. 27 on the bench, you're 240. Get in there. I just don't think he has that nasty mentality. And honestly, that's my biggest gripe, because I think he plays with great anticipation. A lot of times he's making a play on the ball before the ball's even there. Tackling machine, only 8% missed tackle rate over his career. Big fan of Mumma. Big fan. In coverage, he's been a problem this year. He had 3 interceptions and a pass breakup. Just, again, I think it's the physical thing that keeps him out of my top 5, because I said this is a really good linebacker class. At number 5, Quay Walker, and he has moved into my top 50. It's been a long time coming, man. I will say I've been very indecisive when it came to Quay Walker, and I think he's a guy that's probably going to be more productive in the NFL than he was at Georgia. He's pretty darn explosive. Like, he can shoot gaps. It's just a matter of, will he overshoot the gap? Like, he's got the capability. He's twitchy. He's a bendy athlete. You like that. Great tackler. Only 5% missed tackle rate through his career. Probably one of the best tacklers at the linebacker position. And Georgia did make things simpler for him in terms of coverage. And that's probably going to be the biggest roadblock, biggest speed bump when it comes to Walker, is just developing how he sees and how he feels coverage, because he's got good length. He's a great athlete. It's just a matter of not always buy what the quarterback's selling you. Be wary of pre-snap motion, the play action. Like, don't fall into those. I think if you could, man, playing him maybe in man coverage a bit more often might serve him better early on, but he's definitely a guy that can get there. Like, I mean, even if you decide, hey, you know, we just want this guy in man coverage in general, because, like, the dude's a smooth athlete. Sub 7-second 3-cone. He's got some oily hips. He understands how to use leverage, got good length. Like, the dude's a very good player. The In terms of the physical and the athletic traits that are there, I think that's very similar to Jermaine Pratt coming out, and a guy who I just feel like Jermaine Pratt hasn't hit that upside, hasn't hit that potential. I know there's a lot of Jermaine Pratt fans out there. I'm not wild about him, but I would say Walker's kind of in that same mold where it's like he just it's gotta click upstairs, and it might eventually. And even if it doesn't, you're dealing with a hell of a run stuffer and a guy that could stick on running backs, tight ends on man to man with ease. At number 4, and just one spot ahead of Quay Walker, I have Brian Asamoah. 33-inch arms. This guy's got an incredible wingspan. I think it's about 80 inches. That's absolutely ridiculous. It is. And you know what? This is my type of linebacker, or at least if this was me like a year ago. Because linebacker's a hard position to evaluate. And I love these guys who have this incredible range. They just fly all over the field, and they might be able to, and they're probably going to be an issue in coverage if they haven't already been. And with Asamoah, he's a guy that he doesn't have many splash plays in coverage, but I think he has the athletic ability, at least in terms of the range and the length, to be that. So this is typically my cup of tea. If this was me a year ago, he probably would be a first rounder for me. But there are some concerns when it comes to Asamoah, because coming into the year, he really struggled in coverage and he wasn't a sure tackler. Became a much better tackler this year, using that length to really just like boa constrict ball carriers. But his play strength ain't nothing special. He's never going to be a guy that can take on blocks. At least I don't think he will be, unless he gets significantly more pop behind his hands and uses his leverage a bit better. I don't think he will be that guy, even though he hasn't had such a big, massive improvement. Because you could go back to the beginning of the year. I think it was, I was doing my top 300 big board. That's right. I had a top 300 big board going into the 2021 season. And I had him relatively low on there because, again, the 2020 tape wasn't good. And I was like, I get why people really like this cat as an athlete, but man, I just don't see it from like just the dude flies everywhere, but he feels out of control. And I will say, man, he felt more disciplined this year. He felt better on balance, especially when changing direction. He felt more in control in that aspect. But it does remain. Can he be a guy can he be a 3-down guy? I think if you're going to play him in the will, he can be. Or is he more of a sub package? So for me, I think Asamoah, he was one of the more impressive guys there at the Senior Bowl at the linebacker position. And for me, I'm willing to bet on that. I got him here at 47. At number 3, Nakobe Dean. I absolutely love Nakobe Dean. It hurts my heart. It hurts my soul that he is here. But you got to understand, size, it's a concern. Length, it's not so much. At least he's close to that 32-inch threshold you want to have a linebacker, but he's still just under it. And it didn't help that he had, I think it was a pectoral injury that caused him not to take part in any of the drills, and pec and a knee injury. So it caused him not to take part in any of the drills outside of the on-field drills at the combine or at his pro day, because people are questioning this dude's athletic profile. And that could be fair, but this dude reads the field so fast, so quickly. Like, his diagnosis of a play, I don't think anyone touches it. And it seemed, so people have the impression, oh, he makes plays on the football, or at least on where the football will be, fast. but he's not necessarily fast. I don't know if I buy too much into that, but it is worth noting there are concerns over his athletic profile. He can be a bit of a headhunter as a tackler, is what it is. I like the hit stick mentality, but this dude's explosive downhill. He wins the point of attack because, quite frankly, he's the first guy at the point of attack if he's coming in on a blitz. He knows how to get small. I mean, the dude already at 5'11", 229, it's like he feels small, but he gets nimble between the tackles. And like I said, man, this dude reads the field different. Florida game, they kicked Malik Davis, the running back, onto the outside. He immediately went over there and he read screenplay right from the start, picked it off, went to the house, pick six. Kentucky game, he was the only there. Kentucky, they're there. They're in the goal line. They're in the red zone, I should say. I think they were a little past the little behind the 15. I think they were around the 17-yard line. Can't remember specifically, but I do remember everyone on the Georgia defense biting to the right side of the field except for Nakobe Dean, who gets between three tacklers to make a play on Chris Rodriguez, forcing Kentucky to kick a field goal. This cat makes plays, man. He does. I went with the franchise guys, Marcus Whitman's comp of Jayon Brown, because I am actually a mark for Jayon Brown, so I don't mind that. But, man, Dean could be good. It sucks that he may slip out of the first round, but I have no problem. Like, I'm honestly, if I'm in the 20s, I'm thinking about Dean. I really am. And then at number 2, it's Devin Lloyd. And if you know me, you already knew who number 1 was gonna be. Devin Lloyd, man, he actually had a very similar testing profile to Fred Warner. And you love the length. I mean, Devin Lloyd's nice, man. He's been hella good for Utah. He's been good as a blitzer, whether it's he's shooting a gap or he puts his hand in the dirt on the edge and is like, yo, move over. I'm about to go in. 31 pressures, 8 sacks this past season. He stacks and sheds pretty darn well. The short area quickness, pretty darn solid. 33-inch arms. Dude knows how to navigate the line of scrimmage, fill gaps. He's going to be plus in the run game, and he's got the type of quicks, length, and quicks and length to make plays in coverage, whether it's just clogging passing lanes by being a scarecrow in the middle or even just jumping the ball early. Like, to be fair, this cat's interceptions this year, well, they came on tipped balls, but the dude he showed some ball skills because a lot of them were diving catches. So that's pretty nice. Sometimes his eyes will stay a bit too long in the backfield. Gets caught looking, doesn't understand what's going on behind him. That might surface a bit more in the NFL, but he has the length to recover from stuff like that. He will sometimes overrun the ball carrier. It's not kind of nitpicking at this point. Didn't happen too often, but probably the biggest knock is like outside of his length, he doesn't really have one trait where he can hang his hat on in terms of just his overall athletic profile. There isn't really a high-end trait about him. The 4.66 40, 25 on the bench is pretty nice, especially with that length. 35 vert is actually pretty mid for this linebacker group. Like I said, this linebacker group's pretty darn good. Overall, man, he's just going to be a good football player. He is going to be, I don't know if he's ever going to be this true difference maker, but he's going to have a long career in the NFL. At number 1, you bet your sweet cheeks it was going to be Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin, because I absolutely love this cat. I have been trying to change in terms of my evaluation and trying to see which guys actually hit in the NFL, and it's a bit hard. It is a bit hard when it comes to the linebacker position. I think any evaluator will tell you linebacker is probably the hardest to hit on. It really is. And Chenal is typically not my cup of tea when it comes to his tape, because I think Pete Werner was very similar in that regard, where not nearly as strong and physical as Chenal, but a guy that was protected in coverage, not asked to do a lot in coverage, but he plays around the line of scrimmage so well, and he comes in very as a good blitzer. But I mean, he did that and more for Wisconsin. Sometimes lining up in the C or the B gaps, shooting the A gaps. Like, this cat's strong. He can stack and shed, and like the grip strength out of this world. He reads the run exceptionally quickly. He's always bringing it. The guy's got a high motor. And I put here thumper. He is powerful enough to take on blocks this season, man. 26 pressures, 10 sacks. The dude was an absolute menace. 58 stops were among the most in college football. 2 forced fumbles that I didn't even mention here. Missed tackle rate of 8.9%. Very good. But this is what sold it for me, because I was like, man, I don't know in terms of an athlete, like, how's he going to fare in the NFL? And I remember last year when Pete Werner had his pro day, and I was like, I couldn't believe athletically he was that good. I didn't really see it on tape, and large in part was because it just wasn't schemed that way to where he got to show that off. Well, Chenal, his is a hell of a lot better, because at 250, he runs a 4.53. 34 on the bench. We already knew he was going to be strong. I thought he was going to hit 40. Didn't happen. 40.5-inch vert. 128 in the broad. Sub 7-second 3 code. BT Dubs at the combine. Only 5 receivers ran a sub 7-second 3 cone. A lot of them, I was like, well, I hope I can do it at my pro day. Chenal knocked it out of the park. Sub 4-second short shuttle. This type of athletic profile leads me to believe he is a lot better in coverage than what we saw at Wisconsin. Because again, he was schemed in a way where he wasn't moving a lot. He was more of a spot dropper. I mean, I guess the biggest knock was it could be the length, but I'm cool with it. This athletic profile tells me he can be a 3-down player, and he won't be a big liability. He won't be a liability in coverage. So I'm changing how I view linebacker, and this is the horse this is the horse I'm strapping my saddle to when it comes to this linebacker class. Yeah, you see the comp. You see it, right? I put freaking Joey Porter. Let's get a little crazy. A lot of crazy, I guess. But I know Marcus says he sees Demario Davis, and I was like, let's take this a step further. I think this guy can be a disruptor. So I put Joey Porter. Yeah, what can I say? I like the guy. Anyway, that's it for the video. Go ahead, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Who are some guys who you think should have made this list? There's a whole lot of guys that I like in this class, from Forrest Ryan from Villanova to James Houston, Jackson State. I like Mike Rose, Terrell Bernard, Jack Sanborn, Chenal's teammate. He's pretty darn good. But I mean, there's only so many I could put. Let me tell you, when I do my big board for you guys, you're going to see a lot of linebackers up there. I'll just say that. You're going to see a lot. But that's it for the video. Do the YouTube thing. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.